Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Things which do not appear. So many of us, seriously, 80% of probably all the emails, all the questions, everything I get, always has to do with changing our current reality, right? So many of us, there's something about our current reality we want to change. Maybe there's a specific person we'd like to date. Maybe there's a new job we'd like to have, a new house, maybe more income. Maybe we'd like to get a better car, better friends, different group to hang out with, whatever. So many of us are looking to change something about our reality. This chapter in The Law and the Promise totally talks about it. There's two really awesome success stories that are in here. And what I think so many of us forget is we're in the middle of it, right? You're in the middle and the muck and the mire and all this stuff's going on around you. And you're focused on it and you're like, oh, how do I make this go away? How do I make this go away? And we forget all the basics that all of us know. At least anyone that's been reading any sort of Goddard for any period of time, but certainly any of us that have been studying law of attraction or manifesting for any period of time. And we forget right off the bat, how do we create our realities? We do it by what we focus on. Yet so many of us seem to kind of forget that, right? We get stuck in the focusing on the thing we want to change. How do I change this thing I keep staring at? How do I change this thing I keep staring at? Doesn't really go away when we keep looking at it. So let's listen to some of what Goddard's talking about in this chapter, chapter 10, things which do not appear. To refuse to recognize the creative power of man's invisible, imaginal activity is too great to be argued with. Man, through his imaginal activity, literally calls into existence the things that do not exist. By man's imaginal activity, all things are made, and without such activity was not anything made that was not made. Or sorry, let me say the sentence is so bizarre. Was not anything made that was made. Essentially, what he's saying is, for anybody that's ever created, anything that's ever been created came from our imaginal activities, this beautiful power we have. And he says, literally, anyone that's not using this, so a man that's not using imaginal activity, was there anything they've ever created at all? Essentially, is kind of what he's saying. So the imaginal activity is what does the creating. If there's something that you'd like to see happen, we imagine it. It's where all of his revision stuff comes in. It's beautiful. And in fact, there's the lady calls it I'll find it really quick just because it was kind of cool. It caused her to wonder much. And I almost wanted to call this the wondering technique, but I felt that maybe might get us in a different direction. But I want to revisit that because the idea of wondering is sort of a fantastic way to look at how we're going to change whatever it is about your current reality that you don't like, or you would like to change, or you'd like to improve it, or you'd like to make it a different shade of something. Change is change. It doesn't matter what it is. If someone's with a third party, if you want a different color of paint on your walls, if you'd like to see a different car parked in your driveway or your parking spot. Change is change. Doesn't matter what it is. You're imagining the outcome any way it happens, right? As Goddard's talking about. Using that imaginal power. If you're not going to, then you're going to be kind of more of someone that's watching life happen rather than someone that's actually at the ship controlling where life is at. Such causal activity could be defined as an imaginal assemblage of images which, occurring, some physical event invariably takes place. It is for us to assemble the images of happy outcome and then keep from interfering. The event must not be forced, but allowed to happen. He has like 3 sentences here that are gold. Probably the 3 most important things to really keep in mind when it comes to making this change, this challenge that's before us, this change. Again, I've talked about it in other videos. Change is not something to be bummed about. Contrast is not something to be upset about. If you don't like the way something is right now, change it. That's all you got to do. Just change it. Start focusing on it differently. So let's reread this sentence and keep in mind kind of what we're talking about right now, what we've got going here. Such causal activity could be defined as an imaginal assemblage of images, which, occurring, some physical event invariably takes place. To say that again. So the causing activity, to cause activity, the causal part of this, like what caused it to happen? What did I do that made this occur? And what it is it's putting together a bunch of different images inside our head. That's what assemblage means, putting together a whole bunch of images inside our head. And when we do that, a physical event invariably takes place. Something happens in the outer world when we put together in our inner world a whole bunch of different images. It is for us to assemble the images of happy outcomes and then keep from interfering. What do so many of us do? We doubt, we start to question, we start to focus back on the thing that we don't want. Don't interfere is exactly what he's saying. Put together these images, wonder about them almost, as I want to still say. Keep putting these images together, keep seeing the way it is, keep feeling how it feels in this imaginal scene as you're pretending, if you will, that things are the way you want them to be. And then get out of your way. Let it happen. Or keep revisiting that same set of images or keep enhancing upon those images. Keep reliving that experience until it is so real in your mind, then you're done. You're good. You're solid. And it's probably already in your reality on top of inside your internal reality. Because again, everything starts internally. Your conscious mind goes, okay, contrast, I don't like that. Let's make it like this. Ooh, this is how I feel about it. Subconscious goes, oh, you had a feeling. Hello. You feel a certain way about it. I am now going to make this so. Done. And that's really how it happens. You get that feeling going and then boom, then your subconscious is off to the races. So it's up to us to put together the right images, the correct ones, not the ones that you're trying to change, not focusing on how there's a third party or focusing on how someone else is trying to get your job or focusing on how you can't afford that car right now or focusing on how you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills. No. Focus on what it is that you would like to experience. What is it that you're trying to create? More money, a specific person, some third party maybe finds someone else and they live happily ever after, and then now your person's involved, or really just staying away from thoughts of the third party at all. And see yourself in the relationship with this wonderful person that you're trying to get close to again, or trying to get back together with, or trying to get close to at all. Imagine what it is that you want. Stop imagining things that you don't want. And again, that's when we get on our own way. We doubt ourselves. And then when you doubt, you start to throw all these extra questions at what you already know works. But then you go, well, it's not happening fast enough. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Blah, 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 blah. Of course you're doing it right. You were feeling it. If you're feeling it, it's happening. When you go back and start questioning and then start getting scared and start getting nervous and having those kinds of feelings, now you're getting in the way. And the last sentence of this paragraph, the event must not be forced, but allowed to happen. Whenever we try to make it happen faster, you're forcing it. Whenever we put someone on a pedestal, you're forcing a weird kind of thing. It's a weird sort of energy that's now a part of it. And you're starting to force something that's not natural. Goddard's talked about it in other chapters too. You've got to feel a naturalness about it. It has to be believable in your own mind, or it's not going to happen. So you need to be able to get to that place where you can allow it to happen, but yet aren't in such a hurry or in such a panic that you feel like you've got to force it. Like, how can I do this faster? How can I do this faster? How can I do this faster? You're probably slowing yourself down. It's not all about going faster. It's about going, moving. It's about imagining and heading down that path and realizing I am putting energy towards this. I am helping create my outcome. I am doing this. You feel grateful because you know it works. You live in the end because you imagine what it's going to feel like when this wish is fulfilled. What is it going to be like when I've got this better paying job? How am I going to feel? How am I going to feel when I'm finally dating the SP and I'm on my first date? Probably excited, right? Probably nervous. It's not that you're just in love. You're in love from a distance. Love's not what you're going to feel when you get there. It's the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's feeling like I've got this already. What does it feel like when I have it? That's the feelings you want to get yourself to. You want it to be natural. And if you put too much pressure on it, again, you're slowing yourself down. So again, focus on what you'd like, okay? Keep putting your happy thoughts together that work for the outcome that you're looking for. Get out of your own way, and you're good as gold. So one of the great stories that came out of this was this grandmother. I don't want to read it all because it's pretty long. But this grandmother had this younger child. She was with her when she was born, spent a bunch of time with her, and then they kind of moved away or whatever. Didn't get to spend as much time with her. So this grandmother kept imagining this granddaughter sitting on her lap. So in these imaginal acts, I go over all the wonderful things about Kim. God is growing through me. God is loving through me, etc. And at first, she would get these responses from the very young child. And then as she started kind of continuing to do this, and as the child was getting older and getting heavier, because she was imagining that too, she started kind of getting answers back to the whole sentence. And what was happening on the child's side of this part of the story, which this is the really cool part. So the grandmother was doing this time after time, imagining having these conversations with her granddaughter, spending time with her in her mind, doing this on a regular basis. Well, on the other side of this young granddaughter, Kim hasn't even seen a picture of me in the past year. This is the grandmother talking. At the most, I could only be a name to her. Now, sometime each day, her family tells me she starts talking about me. To no one in particular, just talking. Sometimes it goes on for an hour, or she gets on the phone and pretends to call. In her monologue are such bits as, my Dee loves me. My Dee always comes to see me every day. By the very nature of having these imaginal scenes, one, children are amazing because they can actually see things. Their conscious minds aren't so programmed like we are where, oh, I can't believe that I'm actually talking to Dee when I imagine her. So many of us are like, oh, you're just imagining. That's just cute. That's not real. But in reality, it was, right? But let's not get too lost on that. But the power of what was happening was actually translating to the individual. And, of course, this greatly affect the grandmother if you think about it, right? You're putting all these energies towards someone, and now you get this experience. Now you get this reaction. Now you get this reality that starts to form. She was upset that she wasn't able to spend time with her granddaughter. Here she is now kind of doing that. And her granddaughter doesn't really know her yet. She did and didn't realize that she was actually hanging out with each other. Very, very powerful. So all imaginative men and women are forever casting forth enchantments. And all passive men and women who have no powerful imaginative lives are continually passing under the spell of their power. If there's something you want to experience, if there's something you'd like to have, you're an imaginative man or a woman, aren't you? And if that's the case, then you cast forth what they call enchantments, but these are thoughts, positive thoughts about what you would like to experience. Thoughts about what it is you'd like to experience, whether that's the same as what you're currently experiencing and you want to experience more of it, so you keep thinking about this wonderful stuff that's going on, this yummy banana pudding I keep eating. I'm like, oh my God, I love this banana pudding. I want to have banana pudding again tomorrow. It's delicious. Great. Now you're manifesting more of the same. Fantastic. Tomorrow I'll have some more banana pudding. It's delicious. But if you're having chocolate pudding right now and you don't want to have chocolate pudding because you don't like chocolate pudding and you want banana pudding, don't keep talking about how you got chocolate pudding. I keep getting chocolate pudding and I want banana pudding. It's not happening. I keep getting the chocolate pudding. I don't know why. I've told the guy like 5 times I don't like chocolate pudding. Yet I keep getting it. Focus on the thing you want. You're an imaginative person. Be imaginative. Take ownership. Have the imagination to think, what would my life be like? Wonder about it. And this was where the grandmother's quote, even though I know what I have been doing in my imagination, it has caused me to wonder much. She's wondering, like, wow, this is amazing. And here I am thinking and wondering about what it's like to be with my granddaughter. Here I am wondering what it's like to have this job. Here I am wondering what it's like to be with a specific person. I'm wondering what it's like. I'm thinking about it. I'm putting scenes together in my mind. I'm playing them out. I'm having conversations. I'm imagining what it would be like to be with them. And then I think about how does it feel? How does it feel to be in this relationship, to be with this person right now, to have this job, to be showing up at this location, this company, and this great job? Or how does it feel to have conversations with someone that wouldn't talk to me up until now? What does that feel like? What wonderful things are you going to talk about? And how are you going to feel? Imagine. Wonder about it. Think about it. Imagine it. Play it out in your head. Fantasize. Have little role-playing sessions inside your mind. Who cares if it's not really happening or is really happening? What you're doing is creating it. So it's not that it is or isn't happening right now. It is that by focusing on this, your tomorrow or your a little later is going to have that stuff start to show up, whatever it is that you're putting energy towards. So if you keep focusing on the darn chocolate pudding and how much you hate it, you're going to keep getting chocolate pudding. Focus on what you desire. There is no form in nature which is not produced by and sustained by some imaginal activity. Therefore, any change in the imaginal activity must result in a corresponding change in form. To imagine a substitute image for unwanted or defective content is to create it. If only we persist in our ideal imaginal activity and do not let lesser satisfaction suffice, ours shall be victory. Which means continue to own your thoughts, continue to think about them, continue to have the best and brightest and greatest thoughts. And then don't allow yourself to settle for less. Don't allow yourself to be like, well, no, it's okay if he just barely talks to me because, I don't know, I just really want him to sort of talk to me. No. What is it that you want? No. Don't settle for less. Keep your imaginal scene where it needs to be. Maybe it's not quite there yet. Give it a chance. Again, if your right now isn't exactly how you want it, then change it. And by changing it, you make a difference in your tomorrow. So instead of accepting less than what you deserve, and again, self-love always comes into play here, instead of accepting less than that, demand for more. Go, no, I am getting more. This is what I feel. This is what I'm manifesting. Here's what I can see it right here in my mind, and it feels so good. That's what I'm going to have. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to enjoy. And that's what you'll do. You'll put the energy towards it. Rather than going, oh, well, he's almost most of the time good. No. Either A, he's going to get better by you holding the image, by you continuing to think down the path, to think about what you would like it to be. Or B, maybe some other alteration needs to change. But stay focused on where you're trying to get. One last little great example. There was a teacher. There's Seed Time and Harvest, the story of a school teacher, I guess. And this lady was married to a school teacher, and the school teacher had a particularly challenging individual. This child was a bit difficult, and I guess had some family members that kind of lived on the school too, or camped there, or I don't know if that was meant in the sense of they're always there, so it felt like they were camped out, which seems like odd language for the 50s, but maybe they somehow lived on the school campus. I don't know, it seems weird too, but whatever. They camped out. So this lady was trying to help her husband, and how she kept doing it is she kept imagining a couple different things, right? Husband's coming home. He's very unhappy with this child. Oh, my God, do you know what so-and-so did again? And that's what she was hearing. So trying to help, she kept imagining, I wanted to help the boy, but I also wanted to help my husband. So nightly, I constructed two scenes in my imagination. One, I saw a perfectly normal, happy child. And two, I heard my husband say, I can't believe it, dear, but do you know R is acting like a normal boy now? And it is heaven not having those two women around. So again, let me say that quote. I can't believe it, dear, but do you know R is acting like a normal boy? And it is heaven not having those two women around. After 2 months of persisting in my imaginal play, 2 months. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it happens quick. Sometimes it takes a little longer. It's a lot to change, right? So 2 months, she just kept holding the image of what she wanted. So for 2 months, every day, she saw examples of how her imaginal scene was not exactly what she wanted. And what did she do? Did she focus on how JR was not behaving or R was not behaving? Or did she keep imagining the same scene over and over, hearing her husband say, oh my God, I can't believe it. He's acting like a normal human. And on top of that, those two women aren't here. Oh, it's so amazing. So, of course, after 2 months of persisting in my imaginal play, night after night, my husband came home and said, it is like heaven around school. It's not exactly the same words, but close enough for me. And yes, close enough. That's another big key, guys. You might get it right on the money. Yeah, you might be kind of close. When you're kind of close, trust me, you're there. That's it, all right? Sometimes it plays out a little bit differently than how we think it should. Sometimes it plays out, not sometimes, it always plays out exactly as it should. Very powerful. So remember that when you're close and you're like, oh my God, this seems exactly like it, but a little different. Should I wait for something? No. That's it. Act, react, be a part of this. You've created this. Jump on it like it's nobody's business. So it's not exactly what she heard, but close enough. The grandmother had apparently become involved in something that took her out of town, And so the mother had to accompany her. So they got rid of the two people, and the boy was now behaving, and apparently there was some new teacher that was spending some quality time with the boy and making a huge difference. So really, as Goddard talks about frequently, with revision, with changing the way things currently are, with having a situation, oh my God, this thing's not the way I want it. Oh no. I know, it's okay. The contrast, we talk about it frequently. What do you want to experience? This is the question you should first ask yourself every time. What would I like this to be like? Wonder about it. Think about it. Imagine it. Spend some time with it. What would you like your world to be like? Do you like chocolate pudding? No? All right. Well, let's get a different. Let's get some of that banana pudding. It's pretty darn delicious. I'd love to serve you up some. It's Dan Radio Style.